The lawyer who spends her days reading contracts, somehow missing every warning sign in her own life. The therapist who helped clients recognize manipulation for years, unable to see it unfolding at his own dinner table. The professor whose entire profession rests on critical thinking, spending years defending someone everyone else could see through almost immediately. From the outside, it creates a strange question. How did someone so intelligent miss something so obvious? Because intelligence feels like armor. We imagine it as a shield against manipulation, a kind of mental immunity. We assume sharp minds are difficult places to enter. But intelligence, it turns out, was never built for this particular problem, and understanding why requires admitting something uncomfortable. The most dangerous manipulation was never designed to overpower intelligence. It was designed to walk around it. The first impression that arrives polished. In 2010, psychologists Mitja Back, Stefan Schmuckel, and Boris Egloff conducted research that would become one of the most influential studies on narcissism in social psychology. Participants met strangers briefly, then rated them on qualities like likability and competence. The findings were remarkably consistent. People scoring highest on narcissism were often rated more positively after these very first encounters. The researchers traced this back to specific behaviors: greater confidence, more engaging conversation, stronger social presence, polished presentation. The effect was not subtle. These individuals often appeared unusually charismatic, magnetic, the kind of people who seem to enter a room carrying their own atmosphere with them. And this matters because observers were not necessarily seeing something false. The charm itself was real. The confidence was real. The entertaining conversation was real. The mistake happened afterward. People unconsciously treated those qualities as evidence of something deeper beneath them, as though charisma automatically implied warmth, as though magnetism automatically implied character, as though a polished surface guaranteed something solid underneath. But varnish changes appearance. It does not change wood. A beautiful sheen can sit on top of something hollow just as easily as something genuine. And intelligence offers no special advantage here, because intelligence is excellent at analyzing arguments. It is excellent at solving problems. It is excellent at evaluating evidence. But first impressions do not arrive as evidence. They arrive as experiences, and experiences are felt before they are examined. The empathy that is real, just aimed differently. A common assumption is that narcissists succeed because they are poor at understanding other people. Research points somewhere much more unsettling. Psychologists distinguish between two forms of empathy. The first is cognitive empathy, the ability to accurately understand what another person is thinking or feeling. The second is affective empathy, actually feeling concern in response to that understanding. Research on narcissistic traits has repeatedly found an important pattern. Cognitive empathy is often intact, sometimes unusually sharp. Affective empathy is more often where difficulties appear, which creates a very specific combination: the ability to read someone clearly without necessarily feeling constrained by what that knowledge reveals. Like a skilled chess player studying a board, noticing the openings, seeing the weaknesses, planning several moves ahead, not because the person is consciously sitting there like a strategist plotting an ambush. Often these processes happen automatically. But the effect can feel similar. They notice your insecurities. They notice what makes you feel understood. They notice the things you quietly wish someone would finally see, and then they mirror them back with extraordinary precision. To the person receiving it, the experience can feel almost hypnotic, as though someone looked through the noise and understood you immediately, as though you had finally encountered someone speaking a language no one else knew. But being accurately read and being deeply cared for are not the same thing, and sometimes the two can feel almost identical at first. Knowing you are good at something is not the same as being good at it. There is another uncomfortable mechanism underneath all of this. Research on lie detection has repeatedly found something that surprises people. Most of us are not especially good at detecting deception. A large meta-analysis by Charles Bond and Bella DiPaolo reviewed decades of research and found average accuracy sitting only slightly above chance, around 54%, barely better than guessing, and intelligence did not meaningfully improve the result. Neither did confidence. Neither did professional experience. This matters because intelligent people often trust their judgment strongly, usually for understandable reasons. Intelligence genuinely helps in many areas of life. Pattern recognition improves. Problem solving improves. Evidence evaluation improves. Success reinforces confidence. But confidence in one domain often quietly spills into another. Someone good at reading systems begins assuming they are equally good at reading people. Someone who has spent years making accurate decisions starts trusting the feeling that they are difficult to fool. And that confidence can become its own kind of vulnerability. Because the person most difficult to protect is often the person who feels certain they already are. There is something else intelligence does extremely well. It builds coherent stories. Usually this is useful. Normally it helps us make sense of complicated situations. But in relationships like these, the same ability can quietly turn inward. Psychologist Leon Festinger's work on cognitive dissonance showed that people experience discomfort when reality begins conflicting with existing beliefs. And once investment becomes large enough, the mind often works harder to protect the belief than replace it. A sharp mind does not necessarily produce fewer rationalizations. Sometimes it produces better ones. The forgotten apology becomes stress. The coldness becomes exhaustion. The contradiction becomes misunderstanding. The criticism becomes concern. Each explanation sounds reasonable by itself. And because intelligent people often have more material available to build explanations from, the story becomes increasingly sophisticated, not because they are less perceptive. Because perception and acceptance are different things. The mind becomes a conjurer, producing explanations, polishing them, adding gloss, making discomfort fit neatly back into a picture that no longer matches reality. The cycle that does not announce itself. Clinical descriptions of narcissistic relationship patterns often describe a recurring sequence, sometimes called idealization, devaluation, and discard. But the important thing is that it rarely arrives looking dangerous. The beginning often feels extraordinary. Intense attention, intense admiration, a sense of being uniquely understood. A sense that someone has somehow noticed things about you nobody else ever saw. And there is no reason intelligence would naturally defend against that. Because admiration is not experienced as a threat. It feels like warmth, like being chosen, like standing briefly beneath a halo someone placed over your head. The difficult stage usually arrives slowly, not all at once. Small changes, small criticisms, small moments of distance. Nothing dramatic enough to sound alarms immediately. Because if a predator announces itself clearly, prey runs. Nature rarely works that way. A serpent does not strike from across a field, it moves quietly through grass. And by the time the pattern becomes visible as a pattern, investment has already accumulated. Attachment has already accumulated. The nervous system has already started calling this person home. If intelligence alone does not protect against this, the research points somewhere more ordinary, and perhaps less flattering. Protection appears to come less from intelligence itself and more from consistent observation, watching behavior over time, comparing actions against words, tracking patterns rather than moments. Because moments dazzle, patterns reveal, charm can glitter, attention can enchant, confidence can feel magnetic, but consistency is much harder to imitate indefinitely. Eventually the polish wears thin. Eventually the lacquer begins to crack. Eventually the performance becomes difficult to sustain. It also helps to hold your own certainty more lightly, to treat confidence in your judgment the same way you would treat any other claim, something worth testing, something worth questioning. And outside perspectives matter more than people often realize. Friends, family, people standing outside the relationship frequently see things earlier, not because they are smarter, because they were never placed under the spell designed specifically for you. The quiet truth at the end. If you have ever looked back and wondered how someone as careful and intelligent as you missed what now seems obvious, the answer may be simpler than it first appears. You were never using too little intelligence. You were using exactly the right amount of an entirely different tool. Intelligence was built to examine arguments, to solve problems, to separate strong evidence from weak evidence. But being individually expertly charmed is a different kind of situation entirely. Because some things do not arrive looking like danger. Some arrive wearing velvet, some arrive carrying crowns, some arrive dazzling enough to make scrutiny feel unnecessary. And by the time the disguise begins slipping, you are often already standing much closer than you realize. The fact that it happened to you was never evidence that you were foolish. Your mind was functioning exactly as minds usually function. It was simply looking in the wrong place for the threat,